So I'm going ahead and press and record.
Got it.
And we're just going to go ahead and start with case 1. And I figured that we would just go through the 5 questions for each case. Just like somebody give their opinion in one, and then we'll go through. I don't know. Do y'all think we need to everybody answer every single one of them? Because that would take up some time, because some of them could prompt quite a bit of discussion.
We'll just wait and see, I guess.
Okay. All right. So, no worries. Let me split my screen so I can see everything. So the very first one was about James and low reading scores. And the first question about that one said, what do you think of the way James handled his particular situation, considering his limited background? And anybody want to start us off on that?
I think the biggest thing that I would say would be a big positive was that he knew that he didn't know, and he was willing to seek out help instead of trying to fake that he knew all the answers, or that he was the sage. And I think that's a very important skill as a leader, that you don't have to necessarily know everything. You have to know where to look to get the answers, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable when you don't know them.
And I like that just to piggyback off of that, I like that he welcomed and valued like input from his staff. I think that's always important when you trust their expertise and what they bring to the table. So that was, to me, something positive as well. And just like Ashley said, he was just super transparent and honest about what he did and did not know and where he needed help.
Well,
I think the fact that, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. And to piggyback off of both of y'all, when I read the first sentence of the case study, I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. But then as I got into it, I was really impressed that James seemed to have recognized it was not a pleasant place to have worked. And he worked to try to change that. And he noticed, or he knew as a leader, that in order to make changes, he had to first gain the trust of his people. And gaining trust oftentimes means saying, I don't know how to do this, I need help. And he gained not only their trust, but also he gained his teachers' respect, because we can all say, having worked for various administrators, that once you've had a bad one, you're suspicious of all the ones that come afterwards. And it's hard to be that person that comes after. And I think by being willing to, I want to say, sort of step down as leader and let the instructional coach lead him, he showed that leading does not always mean having the answers, and it does not always mean being ahead of everybody else.
Yep. Right. And I think doing that, he built a positive school culture, which I think is important, because it sounds like it wasn't really that way before, just because, right. So I think first you got to get buy-in from the teachers, and I think he did a really good job with that.
And I think
the way he did that was because he empowered them. Like he didn't say my way or the highway kind of thing. He definitely engaged them and allowed them to show like where they could lead as well, which I think is a powerful way to lead.
And I think that what a lot of leaders do not realize, but that James soon caught on to, was that buy-in. If you can get the teachers and the staff to buy into you, you've conquered 80% of the battle. Because your employees will do anything for you. It's just like being a teacher. The kids will do anything for someone they respect. They will go the ultimate mile. But once you don't have that, or if you don't gain that, if you say my way or the highway, anything you try to do, the least little thing, is going to be met with obstacles. So
totally agree. Yep.
So number 2 on that was, what more could be done to help the reading scores in this school?
Well, I'm not sure if we knew a lot about, I mean, we know that the instructional coach was definitely involved. And I'm not sure that it mentioned this a lot, but I think it'd be good if school-wide they could, every teacher have a part, in reading. I mean, just having a time to read, that's a key, sometimes quantity and quality is important in reading, just reading more can help kids read better. So, maybe institute that time in the school in all classes, because if you do it in other classes besides just English class, then again, that buy-in starts to, take effect with kids too.
And I couldn't tell. So, and again, I'm not sure like the breakdown of, I guess the reading part, like, is it vocabulary? Is it comprehension? Like the different parts of reading. So I wasn't sure if maybe they could look at previous data in regards to the breakdown of each area in reading, and then maybe see where the most need is within those areas and address those areas to help improve the scores. So that was kind of what I took from it. It didn't really say a lot about that part, so I wasn't sure what all they were looking at. But if there's a breakdown in the reading parts, maybe
Right.
trying to address, I guess, the most pressing need within that could help.
I had
Oh,
muted
There's
myself.
definitely a difference. I'm sorry. There's definitely a difference between learning to read and reading to learn.
Right.
That's that caveat that we tend to switch over between third and fourth grade, but we have plenty of high school kids that get to us that still don't have
Yeah.
those basic skills with phonics and fluency. So
Yeah.
Well, and bouncing off of that, that's what I was fixing to say was we have a problem with our biology EOC scores right now. And our principal is a former biology teacher, and he used to have 100% pass rates. And the first thing he questioned the guy who was our principal biology teacher on was, how well do they know the vocabulary? And the teacher, his response was, well, they don't know how to read. And I looked at him and I said, no, the data disputes that. I said, because you've got an 86% pass rate on the English 2 EOC. You and I share kids. If they couldn't read, they couldn't pass the EOC for English. It's that they can't read for specific disciplines. They don't get that disciplinary vocabulary. So a mitochondria, I don't teach anything to do with mitochondria in English because I don't like science, first of all. But second of all, it's just not something that typically comes up in literature. So I'm like you, Jennifer. I think that if they would tell some more about exactly where the weaknesses were, whether it was discipline vocabulary, it was sounding words out, if it was just reading fluently, because if you can't read fluently, then that makes you struggle with comprehension. I think that would have helped to know more. And I think the teachers would be able to target the problem more, and therefore they would be able to raise the scores more, because kids can read, but what part can't they read? Is it the new words like mitochondria, or is it that they stumble over words and that causes them to lose their train of thought and so they don't comprehend? I think that would have helped a lot more for the teachers to know that, and it would have helped us a lot more as well.
Yeah.
I also think that generally, when we get our EOC scores back, we don't get a lot of data drilled down. I mean, we get a score, and maybe a little bit of subject wise. So I think they probably need more lead measures where they, benchmark them and do some in-house testing so they can see a little bit better about where the weaknesses are. Because if they try to wait till May or June to see if they've made any improvement, I don't know that they're going to get the right data to even know if they've fixed the problem or not.
Right.
Well,
and I said on here, like, look at.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was about to say, I said on here, like, look at previous data if it's provided, or like give a pretest, like you said, to try to maybe break down some of the areas and identify. And then I guess, like, create an action plan for that most pressing need. So, yeah.
Well, and what I was going to say was, by the end of the year, it's too late because you're going to take that data and you're going to compare it to the next grade of kids that comes in to take that test. And that's comparing apples and oranges. They're unique kids and they don't have the same weaknesses and the same strengths. So I think that a pre-test and looking at that data and breaking down specific parts that were the problem could have been more helpful. But they definitely did some things well.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 3, what additional resources could James utilize to help the school improve?
So yes, I think this kind of goes along with 2, but we kind of already mentioned
Right.
some of that. But yes, I think the additional resources, those pre-tests we talked about, and looking at maybe more frequent common assessments, depending on what they're trying to do, I think would be helpful.
Right.
Yeah. And then I also said maybe set, and again, it's kind of general what they did and didn't do. So I said maybe set some short-term and mid-term goals. And then like celebrate progress along the way. I think sometimes we harp on the bigger picture, but we don't celebrate the small steps. And just, you know what I'm saying, to keep the kids motivated, even the staff motivated and supported to want to continue. And like, yay, we reached the first short-term goal. Let's strive for the next one. So I do think I had said that. And then I also said maybe some professional development for the teachers, maybe outside of the school. It looked like the instructional coach was providing some of that. But sometimes just when you get a different view from someone outside of the school, sometimes that helps as well. Because a lot of times when you're in the school, you're sort of biased to maybe what you're presenting or whatever. So I also said maybe some professional development for maybe at least the reading teachers.
I can agree with that one as far as the professional development. It's good to see what people in your building are doing, because every building has great teachers with great ideas, but you have to look outside sometimes too, because if you don't look and see the good things that other people are doing, then how do you expect your teachers that are in-house that have been there the whole time, how do you expect them to improve? So yeah, definitely outside resources. So number 4, what could he be sacrificing, if anything, by placing an extraordinary emphasis only on the reading program? Well, honestly, as an English teacher, I'm going to say, I don't think that that's a sacrifice, because kids have to be able to read, period, before they can do anything else. Even math, you have to be able to read word problems. But
However, I can tell you, I've lived this though, because our district for the last 6-7 years, we've placed such an extraordinary emphasis on reading that we've neglected everything else. So I think you have to do reading, but you have to also remember those other subjects, because spending 5-6 years without really focusing on math beyond the basic math class, now we've got kids that are years behind in math, and you can't catch up in math in 1 year. I mean, it's a building process.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost detrimental in that case. I think you definitely got to find that balance. Because I agree, even you have to be able to read word problems, and you have to be able to understand the math. But also, like we talked about, it's not necessarily just reading, it's the vocabulary. So the math vocabulary and the biology vocabulary and all that is not necessarily taught in a reading class. So you got to make sure that you're not only doing the reading program, but you're doing other things. And then I did have one more thing I wanted to add on number 3 real quick. As far as the additional resources, it said something about reading materials and books, but I didn't see anywhere where they were doing anything technology wise. And that's a good way to utilize, maybe to get more quick feedback, and also to be able to compare teachers when things like Study Island or Alex or all these other programs we looked at the last time. Could be another resource that they could utilize to try to help with the scores too. So anyway.
Well, what I was saying was the however part was that they need that disciplinary vocabulary. And so what I was saying was reading is important, but they have to do this too. But you got that before I could get there, actually.
She felt passionate about that math teacher right there.
She did. She
I was
cut
ready
me
to
off
say,
before
it's
I could
definitely my
say
passion.
anything.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so if Jennifer doesn't have anything, do you have anything you want to say on number 4?
No, I kind of agree with both of you. I put that reading is used in every subject. I said, however, I do think teachers have to find a way to maybe incorporate reading within their disciplinary to not, sort of shun away from what they're teaching and the kids kind of start lacking in other areas. So I think you have to, like Ashley said, find a balance to be able to do both. So yes, that
Yeah,
was kind of all I had.
definitely. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to case 2, if that's okay with both of y'all. Sorry, my
I thought we
screen.
only had to do one this time.
No, we only had to do one.
Oh, we did?
Mhm.
Oh,
Look
okay.
at you, Brooke, ahead of the game, but we ain't ready.
I'm ahead of the game. I'm trying to go ahead and get 2 out of the way. Okay, so is there anything anybody wants to add? Any questions that we could maybe discuss? I know Ashley found her answer to her question.
Yes.
No,
I will say overall with that case study, I mean, I know it's fictional to a point, but I think in general, it would be hard to be a teacher in a building and then be the administrator. I mean, I've experienced that where somebody did that became from a teacher to administrator and then actually went back to being a teacher, and that was even harder. So, I mean, again, I know that he found a way to overcome that, but I think in general, rising in your own school can be very challenging. Like he talked about, you're their friends and then all of a sudden now you're their boss.
Right.
Well, and
but I think
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think he handled it really well. It's almost like he created a school-wide PLC, which I think, is important. But I think he handled it very well, like recognizing his weaknesses, and just relying on other people's expertise, just to try to create a big picture and just basically bring everything together with everybody putting in what they're an expert at. So I think he did a good job.
Well, and I was going to say, it's very, very hard. Sorry, my dog wants to be seen. It's very hard because we had an assistant principal who did that and did not do it well. So he seemed to have done it fairly well. Well, if that's all, I'm going to end the recording and I will send y'all the link.
Thank y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.